how are you? I hope you and your loved ones are staying safe and well. Now today we're going to get started with RStudio, which is a very exciting moment because we're going to be spending a lot of time in RStudio for the remainder of the semester. It's really kind of a commitment. Now if you're offended by swear words, would you please kindly close your eyes? Now right now you may be feeling a little bit like this guy, but my hope is that through the course you will find yourself looking a little bit more like this guy on the right hand side. And so this is my hope for you, and if I could be helpful in any way to get you there, then don't hesitate to let me know. Alright, please feel free to open your beautiful eyes. So in this lecture we'll cover a few things about RStudio. First of all, we'll talk about what it is, and then we'll look into its basics, its layout and its language, and then we'll practice setting up a working directory. And that's all. So let's dive right in. Now, first of all, why statistics? Because it's not always the most natural thing that comes to people's minds when they think about psychology. But as you know, psychology requires you to learn and practice a lot of statistics. Why is that? Well, statistical analysis is a key part of being a psychologist, and here are the main reasons why. First of all, psychologists produce scientific knowledge, right? We do a lot of studies and experiments to find out how people behave or react or think or perceive, all sorts of things. And we also need to know statistics so that we can understand and interpret other people's work, because a lot of scientific knowledge comes out in the form of, for example, journal articles and so on. And unless you know statistics, it's really hard to understand how those researchers learned what they learned and evaluate whether their findings and their interpretation holds water. And so these are some of the reasons why we're covering so much statistics in psychology as a major. Now there are many ways to analyze data, and so you may have heard of some of these software. Wait, what happened there? There you go, the pirates speak. You will get tired of me saying R, but yes, R is one of them, but you might have heard of SPSS, you might have heard of some others that are shown on this screen. But there are many different softwares or statistical packages that people use to analyze data. And now why R? I'm sorry, I'm doing terrible pirate speak, and you're gonna get so tired of me doing this. So pardon me, forgive me. But R is widely used in quantitative research, and lots of quantitative methods folks, quantitative psychologists, statisticians, and so on, use R. And the good news is that it's free, and so you don't ever have to worry about licensing or paying for the software, and you can continue using it in all perpetuity after you graduate. And also, it's a highly marketable program to know. And so, as I've mentioned before, a lot of quantitative psychologists and people who are in the know and are good at statistics use R. And so it kind of ends up giving our users a little bit of kind of a leg up on the job market or in the academia. To know R, it kind of carries a little bit of prestige and kind of a little bit of a message that you know statistics. And so it's a very marketable language and program to know. So wow, you're so lucky to be able to learn R while in college. I could have only dreamt of that happening for me. So let's begin to talk about RStudio. And so RStudio is actually the program or the environment where you will interact with a programming language called R. And so if you open R, then it looks like this. But then what you're working with actually is RStudio. And so the same programming language goes in here, R goes in here, and it's running R in the background. But RStudio has a much better user-friendly interface with lots of capabilities. And so we will be working in RStudio to run R. I hope that makes sense. And so for all intents and purposes, I'll say RStudio in this course, but what you're actually doing is programming and running code in R within RStudio. Exciting stuff. And so let's do a quick tour of what RStudio looks like. Ta-da! Meet RStudio. And so this is probably something similar to what you saw when you first open up RStudio. And you notice that there are 3 windows, but typically we would be running a script or commands that are written in R. And so in order to get that window for the first time, you can certainly go to New File and go RScript. And you will notice that now you have 4 different quadrants or windows in RStudio. And so let me walk you through each of these sections. And so first of all, what we just opened right here is an R script window. And this is where you will code in R. And so all the R programming language and stuff goes here. Now down below is the console window. And so the console window is kind of like where you would see output. And so you run a command up here and the results appear in the console window. And this is where you see the results essentially of the code that you run, or the code that is compiled. And it will also show you the status of what RStudio is thinking. And so right now you see this little greater than sign, and that is going to tell you that RStudio is ready. But let's say that you're in the middle of a command and you don't finish it. Then it's going to give you a plus sign to let you know that it's still waiting for you. So for example, let's say that you want to run 5 minus 2 as an example. And so you write down 5 minus 2, run it, and then it spits out that result over here, right? So you've just run this code that says, 5 minus 2. Do that calculation, R. I clicked on run, and it ran and gave me the answer. Now let's say that I wanted to do the same thing, but I forgot to close off that argument. And so let's say I was going to do 5 minus 2, but for some reason I got distracted and then tried to run it. And now you see that RStudio is showing you a plus sign. And so plus sign means that RStudio is still thinking or waiting. And so right now it's telling you that it is still waiting for you to finish the code, which should have been 5 minus 2 or otherwise closed. And so again, plus sign means that RStudio is waiting or thinking. And then up here is the environment window. And you can also see history and so on here. Over here is where we will start to import datasets. And so we'll go over that later. And down below here in this section are a bunch of things that you would find likely quite helpful. So how your files are organized. You can also view plots if you generate them. Plots are like graphs. You can download and install packages, which are kind of like miniature programs. Ask for help and so on. And so this was a little tour of RStudio, and you will get familiar with many of these windows and sections. And so I look forward to walking through these with you time and time again. All right, and so now you know what RStudio is and what it looks like. Congratulations, well done. And so before we move on to the rest of the lecture, let's pause for a bit. What I'd like you to do is look through the PowerPoint slides and make sure that you understand what we just covered, and answer some review questions that are posted on Canvas. And let me know if there's anything that's unclear. Please feel free to post any questions that you may have or flag me down. And it's a good time also to just stretch your legs if you like and walk around for a little break. See you soon.